For exercise 2, you're going to be given a 6-inch square piece of fabric, and the instruction sheet will tell you to take that 6-inch square and fold it in half. So I'm going to give you the choice of folding it in half and just finger pressing it like this, or if your fabric doesn't lay flat and nice and smooth, then you'll get out an iron and just press it where it is folded in half. So that's the first step. On the exercise 2 handout, it reminds you up at the top to test to make sure your machine is properly threaded before beginning this exercise. So if you haven't done that already, make sure to do that now. You want your stitch selection on stitch 1 and a stitch length of 2.5. The next set of instructions tells you that along one of the long edges of a rectangle, you will sew a straight line seam using the edge of a presser foot as a guide for your seam allowance. It also tells you to follow the proper procedures for lining your fabric up and beginning to sew a seam. That's what I'm going to show you now. So basically we would have our needle in the up position. Presser foot would be also in the up position, and you will be sliding your fabric underneath the presser foot, and it tells you to use the edge of your presser foot as the guide. That just means that I'm going to use this edge right over here as my guide, so the edge of my fabric along this side will line up even with my presser foot. So to get started, I am going to just lower my needle and then lower my presser foot, and I'm ready to sew. In sewing this seam, you are going to just sew straight down using the edge of your presser foot as a guide from one end to the next. And then when you get to the other end, you're going to lift your needle with my needle up button, raise the presser foot, and then you're going to use your sewing shears to clip your threads short. And you'll do the same thing on this other side. You want nice, clean stitching, and then it tells you to repeat step 1 along the other edge of the rectangle. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the other side. Same instructions. I'm going to line it up with the edge of the presser foot, lower my needle first, lower my presser foot, and then I'll stitch forward, clear to the other end. Get to the other end, I'll lift my needle, lift my presser foot, clip my threads. The next set of instructions is to adjust the machine to turn it to a zigzag stitch. We're going to be finishing up the raw edges, and so first I need to make sure that my needle is in the up position. If my needle is down underneath the throat plate and I turn my stitch selector, I could end up bending my needle. So then over here on my stitch selection panel, I'm going to turn the stitch to stitch 5. It tells me I need to be on stitch 5 right here, and that I need to increase the stitch length to a stitch 2, and then I need to be at a 3.5. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and lower my needle. So I'm going to hit my needle down button, and I don't have my fabric under there yet. I'm just going to go ahead and lower my needle. So it's already down, and so this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to line the edge of my fabric right up next to the needle. Okay, and once it's lined up, then I will lower the presser foot, and as I begin sewing, the fabric's going to run off the edge on one side and on the inside edge on the other side. So I'm just going to continue zigzagging down the edge. You just want to make sure that when the needle position comes to the right side, so when it comes back over here, that it goes just slightly off of the edge of the fabric, and this is going to prevent your fabric from unraveling. When you get to the end, you can, normally we would backstitch, but we haven't learned how to do that yet, so we're just going to get to the end, lift our needle, lift the presser foot, clip the threads, and again we're going to start out with our needle down. So I'm going to drop the needle, and then I will slide the fabric up where it butts up against the needle, drop the presser foot, and then do the zigzag stitch all the rest of the way down. Raise my needle, raise my presser foot, and now I'm going to take a little bit of time, not just to trim the yellow threads, but I'm going to clean up any little fray or little stray threads that are hanging out. I'm going to clip all of those right now. Okay, so that's the end of exercise 2.